Hey everyone, welcome to the episode of That's All Funny. Today my guest is the lovely, wonderful Ruby Spacek. My,
Hi, what's up,
hey,
people?
I'm saying that
Huh?
right again, right? I'm making sure it's
Yeah, no,
Ruby
you
Spacek.
nailed it. You nailed it. Is your last wait? How do you pronounce your Lorenzo Areola?
Yeah, I can't even say my last name the way it's intended to say. You're supposed to roll the R like a Latin.
Areola.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know.
exactly. And I just never learned that. My grandparents were very they used to get their hands slapped when they'd speak Spanish
Yeah.
growing up, so they were like, don't teach them Spanish.
Oh, to like
And
assimilate more.
yeah,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
teach them
yeah. That makes
Spanish
sense. Yeah,
because
because you want to be like
and I
American English.
yeah, I grew up in those days where like I grew up in a real small white town, so if you knew Spanish, everyone would kind of stare at you kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
I'm
would love
here
to
for
learn Spanish, but I started learning Korean. I like start so many like things and just like stop and lose interest.
it's hard nowadays to like stay interested in things the way things are trying to be quicker and moving, and I don't know, it's just the I get it because I have
Yeah,
that same attention span too. I'm like how you said simulating to like this attention span of the way people are now, and it's hard. It is really hard.
yeah. Yep, definitely.
No, but I wanted to talk to you today because I know you're I don't know, you sound so interesting, your story, how you're currently going through like these withdrawals because you were on I guess like harder drugs or semi
Yes.
harder drugs.
Yeah, I have a history of multiple drug addictions, alcohol, benzos, opiates, crack, amphetamines, kratom. The list, like anything you can get addicted to, I've been addicted to. But I've been clean from fentanyl for about a year, except I did lapse one day. So I like just about a year. And from like all hard drugs, I just smoke weed now and drink like occasionally. I'm not a big drinker though, so
And for you to like have gone into that sort of mindset where you get addicted, was there like reasons for that? Did you had things to cope with? Did you
oh
have
yeah.
like a true love that got you into that, or were you just like a party, or you know what I mean? There's a lot of reasons to get into that, but did you have a
Yeah.
specific reason?
Well, I was like a prime candidate for drug addiction. Like my dad also in the early 2000s when they were like pushing oxycontin on people as pain management, he got hooked on oxycontin and that turned to heroin. So I had a pretty idyllic childhood until I was 11 and I started getting like extreme panic attacks. So that was like the thing, and I would drop out of school. I would be like homeschooled just because I was so scared all the time and in this state of panic. So once I found like alcohol or any downer that like made it so I could relax and like try to connect with people, I started like associating connection with drugs and like, oh, I can't socialize unless I'm high or drunk. And um it, and I just had no hesitation. My mentality was live fast, die young. That was my stupid mentality. So I had no hesitation with it. My older brother and my dad were both heavily into drugs. So my older brother would like give me stuff and my dad not as much, but he just was kind of in and out of the picture.
And were you were you into any of the lighter drugs, and did they sort of get you into that, or was it
Uh,
straight to that sort of, well, you said right, alcohol to kind of cope with your anxiety, and
yeah,
then
alcohol was like the first thing I was like doing a lot of. I was like a punk kid, so I moved into like a warehouse and was just drinking 40s every day. And that was just the subculture I was in, was everyone was drunk all the time. So that seemed normal to me. I moved to Providence for a bit and kind of spiraled, ended up in a rehab there when I was 21 for alcohol. But I didn't get into heroin until I was 21. And then I had 8 years clean from opiates. I was doing really well. And I reconnected with an ex who had been using, and I let him stay with me, but I didn't know he was using. And once the shit was in my face, I relapsed. And that was a 2 year struggle because that was my first time being addicted to fentanyl. And it was like nothing I've experienced, the withdrawal. It's absolute torture.
oh man, no, and I know the feelings of coping because I know I would never do drugs. I was a very growing up in the 90s, I was all about dare, drug
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
abuse.
Good, good,
So I signed that contract and I was like, I don't want to break this contract.
good. Thank God. 'Cause
But
it doesn't take you anywhere good. Like, now I'm 34 and have to start like from scratch, you know, from the negatives. Like,
Mm.
you know, I have an apartment and, you know, things are coming together, but it's, you know, it's definitely a journey.
Well, it's never too. I'll say it's never too late to reset, but I'm sure there is a point
Yeah, yeah. But
where.
like, I still feel like young enough, you know, so it's
No,
like,
definitely.
like I would hate my worst fear is I don't want to be like in my dad's position, like, you know, in your like 50s, 60s, like still doing this shit. You know, it's like I want to build a normal life. Life is hard. You need to be aware.
Mhm.
You can't. I tried being high all the time, and you know, things just crumble around you. Like I was just very stunted in my maturity too for like a long time.
When I can't imagine. I'll say. So I'm sorry. I can't imagine being a female and being unaware because that sounds even scarier. And growing up in that timeline, because I know I'm 36,
Hmm.
and even me, I was always paranoid of either people stealing from me or
Oh
my
yeah.
mom being a piece of shit stealing from me. So
Oh my
I can't
gosh.
imagine how it'd be for you, being kind of wasted or whatever the term is, and then not being aware of your surroundings.
Well, luckily, I was always like, I played in a band for a long time. I was a musician. I played like guitar in my first band. I started when I was like 20. So I was always with like a posse of people. I wasn't like, and it was people who had like good intentions. Like they just were like fuck ups, you know, and like musicians and like creative types, you know. Um, but so it wasn't all like this darkness, but like, you know, it's all fun and games at first. And then it's
Mhm.
like, and then next thing you know, you're evicted, you're arrested, you're psychotic, you're in the psych ward. Like shit goes down, you know, you can't just, shit goes down.
I do actually know that feeling. Yeah, I know. When I was around, I'd say 11, maybe, my parents divorced, and that was kind of the downhill for me. And I got the same thing too, where I got anxiety,
Hmm.
but I didn't cope with it with drugs. But I know back then, especially in the 90s, anxiety wasn't really known about, especially in males.
No, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't know what, when you're that young, you don't know what it is. I just believed like I am defective. Like there's just something about
Mhm.
me that's like defective and I can't cope with reality. Like it's an involuntary physical reaction, you know? So it's like so hard to get out of that space, you know?
No, definitely. They thought it was heartburn for me when
Really?
I went. Yeah, when I went and I told them I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like my
Yeah.
throat's tightening.
Yeah.
I feel like the room. I'm afraid of this or that. Oh, it must be heartburn. You must have gastro problems. Maybe we'll just
Hmm.
subscribe. Zantac, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine for a female, they like you said, you may think you're broken, you may think you're crazy. They might want to put you in a room with yellow wallpaper and call it a day.
Right. I didn't get any like mental health treatment until I was in my mid 20s. You know, I like, or no, actually, it was the first time I got any kind of treatment was I was like blackout drunk, suicidal, having a total mental breakdown. My friend was like tattooing me with stick and pokes, and it was just a crazy night. And I ended up in the hospital on suicide watch. And then I went into alcohol withdrawal, and they sent me to a place in Rhode Island called Star, somewhere in Rhode Island, some weird like facility.
And as far as being arrested, was that because of your addiction or
I
uh
never got arrested anything drug related. Like throughout my 20s, I got arrested for stealing a puppy from the mall when I was 18. That was my first arrest. Then I got arrested for doing graffiti. And then last year when I quit fentanyl, I decided I couldn't afford to go to like any decent rehabs or anything. And the state facilities, they don't give you enough medication to cope. So it was like a better option for me to try at a friend's house, just have people watching me. But I didn't sleep for 9 days. The withdrawal went really intense, and I did go completely psychotic, detached from reality. I
mhm.
thought everyone was a hired actor by Destiny, the streamer. I thought he had hired actors to fuck with me, to like strengthen me, to like save the world, like some delusion. I thought God was talking to me, like dead ass. And I thought like Mr. Girl was trapped inside of my mom's dog. Like, but what happened was I got arrested 3 times in a week. The worst though was um I woke up in the middle of the night and I was at my mom's house, like, and I just started like breaking like all the electronics, like because I thought they were like recording me.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran out the door. I was like, "You guys aren't gonna kidnap me, like, and put me in rehab." And I saw a house, and on the front lawn it said like happy graduation, and I was like, oh, this is destiny fucking with me because I didn't graduate high school. I go into the house, so I'm in a stranger's fucking house, and I light a cigarette on the stove, and I was scared. So there's a huge knife just on the counter, and I was scared because I'm like in a random house, and I think it's actors I'm going to confront. I pick up the knife, and then some poor woman runs out and is like, "Oh no, open knife, open knife!" And I like dropped it. I was like, "I'm so necesito drogas." Like, I'm so sorry. Like, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, and so I ran out. I went to, oh, well, I got in a physical altercation with her husband. We were fighting. And then I saw Destiny's face superimposed on his face, and I leaned in for a kiss, like while I was fighting this guy. And then I run out. My mom and like the cops find me. I'm surrounded by cops. And I guess I reached for one of their guns. Like, the unfortunate thing is, I thought, that when you have those impulsive bad thoughts to like, you know, yell bomb in an
No.
airport or like all those things you really shouldn't do. I was
Mm-hmm.
convinced that I was supposed to be doing all those things, like, and that was gonna like, you know, get me like self-actualized or something. I don't know what the fuck. It doesn't make sense, but that's psychosis.
No. Yeah, yeah. No, I've definitely not to that degree for sure.
Mhm.
But I've definitely had those thoughts of being here at home, thinking the darkness is gonna eat me alive, hearing mechanical noises,
Yeah,
like machinery, thinking
weird.
everyone's after me, that I'm gonna
Mm.
just float into space and never come back down. So I've known those psychotic feelings, and
It's yeah, it's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. But you just as I believe I'm talking to you right now, your delusions are that real. It's that real
yeah,
to you,
no,
and
definitely.
it's you just are like, oh, okay, this is reality. I know I'm talking to God, whatever. Like, it's hard to explain.
Well, yeah, and we'll get into other people. There are people that are into perception and reality. I know, like real life people that aren't supposedly psychotic, but no, we see these things, and yeah, it's just something that is just as real to anyone else.
Yeah.
Um, and I know the reason. You said you were like coping with it, and you had the lifestyles. How are you doing now as far as like just trying to cope without, you say you smoke cigarettes, you drink a little.
Mhm.
Do you
Yeah,
take
yeah.
medication also,
Mhm.
or?
I'm currently on methadone right now, so I don't know if you're familiar. That's prescribed for like opiate addicts. It's a maintenance medication, so it is like an opiate in itself, but it's like heavily regulated so that they can taper me down safely. And it's like you don't get high when you're like consistently on it. So it's just like something to stabilize you and then slowly taper down. So I'm tapering down off methadone now, and I take gabapentin that helps with like the post-acute withdrawal. Just Newports. I've been smoking weed like every day. I've been bad with weed though. Like, I can't lie. That's like, I don't know. I'm trying to quit the cigarettes, cut back on the weed. The drinking, luckily, I only drink like if my boyfriend or someone's coming over. I'll have like 2 or 3 Bud Lights, but not much more. I just don't really go
But is
crazy with
weed
alcohol.
but is weed really like, is it just you that is like trying to get off of weed, or is it really that bad? Like,
I don't think it's that. It's more. Well, first off, I'm unemployed right now, so it's like I just literally can't afford it. Like, so it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
gonna happen whether I like it or not. And my functioning isn't like it like goes down. I'm not as productive, because I'm smoking. I'm like watching videos, and I'm already inclined to be like kind of lazy, so I got to be somewhat careful.
And how does this affect your and again, you don't have to answer, because I know me personally, I'm on like a ton of medication just to relax,
Hmm.
and it messes with my, let's say, my libido, right? I believe
Oh
that's
yeah,
what.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a man, right? But as far as I'm a man,
Sometimes that can be convenient though. You're like, hey, fuck it. Who needs, I was celibate for 5 years because also I had like, it's a combination of me being a recluse and just crazy and medications that just made it so I didn't care. Like, I was just did
Mhm.
not care.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm the exact same way. Like as far as like when I was younger, is taking all these medications. I don't know if it was that or just me but I would always feel no need, and then I found a community online eventually, like, of asexual, that whole
Oh,
concept.
no. Do you so
And
you relate to that? Like,
yeah, yeah, I relate to that, where I've never
yeah.
felt like I've always wanted to go like first base, second base, third
Mhm.
base, but then like when you're right there at home plate about to slide
Mhm.
in, I'm like, nah, I'm cool, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I'll rather please a woman than please myself. you know,
Yeah. I mean,
uh,
everyone has their preferences, but it can totally be influenced by like medication and
mhm.
just where you're at in life. Like my libido's gone up and down over the years. Like I've been diagnosed as bipolar. I don't know what I am. I most recently diagnosed ADHD. I don't know what it's just. I'm just there's something wrong with me. But these labels are so it changes. So
Mhm.
I'm like, am I bipolar? I don't think I really am even that crazy. Like
No, you're absolutely right. Though the definitions do keep changing as to
yeah.
like what the definition is of bipolar, this and that. And I saw, I was watching one of your streams. Do you consider yourself bisexual or
Mhm.
straight, or
I'd
and
say
mhm.
bisexual. Like I tend to date men, but I'm sexually like I find women like I tend to find them more visually appealing. Like and I'm more picky with like guys, but I tend to date guys more than like women. I've only dated one woman. Like
Yeah, no, I could get that. I mean, a man's, what do they say? A man's body's a tool, and a woman's body's a work of art, right?
yeah, right. It's like I don't know. A lot of women are like fluid in their sexuality. I identify with like LGBT because those are just the spaces I came up in. That's been like my general community is that and like the music scene and activist scene. So I'm trying to like, you know, work from the inside out with all the insanity that's been going on like in the LGBT movement at the moment.
And and you think, as far as like being bisexual, was that do you think you've always been like that, or was that a product of drugs or your
Uh,
medications or your environment? What do you think?
who knows? I mean, I
Mhm.
I always admired women, but I didn't feel this intense sexual attraction to them until I was 21. And like I had this very beautiful female best friend who happened to have very strong feelings for me too. And one night we just hooked up and then I ended up moving with her to Providence.
No,
So
I was
it's
the same.
like,
I was
and
the
I'm
same
attracted
way.
to women, but like I have a boyfriend now and like, so it's like, who knows? It like I'm not like oppressed based on that identity or anything.
Yeah, yeah, that's just how you feel when you feel, and you happen to
Yeah, I
be.
just think it's accurately descriptive. I'm attracted to like people of both genders.
Yeah. If they want to put you in a box, and check it, that's essentially how it is. That's how I was with my that's why I felt like asexual. I was with my I'd mess around with my cousin, my third cousin, and we would never do anything past, second or third base,
Yeah.
because one, it felt odd, but then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
two, but two, I wasn't really into that, and neither was she, because we were younger.
Everyone has their own like path to happiness and fulfillment, and it's gonna look different. You just have to be honest with yourself. Like if you don't have that desire, that's totally fine. So I'm glad like there is that asexual community. I know there's some controversy about it. Like, did you see that woman who went viral, the asexual girl? She was like leading the parade, but and everyone was like she was wearing this like sexy outfit. Like some people have issue with it being associated with LGBT because it's like it is a different experience. But I don't know. I don't really have super strong feelings on it.
Yeah, I didn't see that particular controversy, but I always felt like, how they say you play for a certain team, you're either a pitcher or a catcher, and I've always
Hmm.
felt like I'm in the stands, like I,
Yeah,
as far as
yeah.
as an asexual. So, like, I guess technically I am. The asexual is in the LBGTQ, right? Plus, plus,
Hmm.
plus, plus.
Well, now because it's like LGBTQIA2S, I think is the official. It's getting ridiculous. It's just
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's honestly, I felt very suppressed of what I could talk about for a while, like in those communities, because I believed that I had like internalized transphobia, internalized this, internalized that. So I was like doubting my own perception. But I just feel like that movement is heading in a direction that's going to cause a backlash. And I feel like I see it already, like more people being against like gay marriage and LGBT as a whole. They're just like, fuck it, we're over this shit. Like,
well, I'm more, and me being checked in a certain box. I always feel I don't mind like the gays. I call them like that. I've had like gay uncles and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I don't mind that community. But when you have them dancing around naked or
Mhm.
doing drag hour or writing books to kids that don't have
It's
fully developed
confusing
mind.
children, like to tell a child that you can be born in the wrong body, unless this child like in their own is like expressing this from their own thing. But I don't think it's a good idea to tell kids that. Like, I think that kids can have like some experience of gender dysphoria for sure, but like we shouldn't be telling every child like, hey, just so you know, it's totally optional what sex you are. Like you can just decide. And that's just not factual. But children are very malleable. So it's concerning to me that falsehoods are being taught as truths. That's concerning, you know?
Yeah, especially when it has to deal with not just gender, but sex, because
Yeah.
gender is sex, and that's an adult conversation, or at least
Hmm.
a birds and the bees type thing that I feel like only a parent should be able to do, or someone who's trained in teaching that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The bird,
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, it's like, I think when you're like maybe in middle school, they should teach kids what a transsexual person is, teach them what gay is, but like to teach them strictly gender ideology, this idea that sex is randomly assigned. It's like, no, it's observed accurately 99.99% of the time. Occasionally, there are people with sexual disorders, and there are people who identify as trans. Like, and I fully like have a lot of trans friends. My ex fiance is trans woman, so it's like I support those people. I have lines around where the movement's going that I'm just disagreeing with.
Yeah, and do you think that have you always felt that way, or just, or no, you haven't, right? It's just
I
more
used
the
to be
the
more
movement.
I used to be more like SJW, um, ally.
Hmm.
I like playing bands with trans people a lot. Like, and I'm still like I said, like support them. It's just the the ideology around being trans changed a lot in the last just few years.
Hmm.
Where now it's literally a thing for a trans woman to say, "I am a biological female," and we're having now these legal battles about males being put in female prisons, trans women in prisons, like, and it's not a good situation. I generally think if you're like a post-op trans woman, I don't care. I think it should just be like penises go in the guy one, and if you don't have a penis, fine, you're chill. Like that standard seems fair to me. Like I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially with female athletes too, like
Mm.
in the colleges where I that's where I feel it the most, because I have two nieces, and
Yeah,
if you have males taking female scholarships, because
and the women,
technically,
it's a chilling effect where women are just going to avoid the whole situation. It's like women are tend to like not want drama, conflict. So if they see like a sport that's being dominated by a bunch of males that are in the locker room, they're probably just going to pull back. And that makes me sad too, that there's not those opportunities anymore.
no, yeah, it's, and that's where I'm drawing the line, because I grew up traditional. I went to church and got baptized, and all the other circumcised, and confirmation and all that. But it was I don't know. I didn't mind seeing. I had a couple gay uncles. I didn't mind seeing gay people. I just thought they
Yeah, yeah.
were. I just thought they were funny. When
Yeah, yeah.
back then in the '90s, they were just kind of
It was
comedic
like Will and
tropes.
Grace. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that was the vibe then. It was just kind of like, yeah, just like funny. And yeah, I've never had any issue with that.
yeah. But now it is becoming sort of a this huge political, yeah, like you said, ideology where
It
I don't
is. It's
know.
very rigid ideology that operates in some cult like ways. From the people I talk to, like you are like a heretic if you leave. You are shunned. Especially, it's funny because the activists say they're doing it on behalf of trans women, but often trans women are targeted more than anyone if they say anything that's like not super woke. Like if a trans woman says like, I don't like being asked my pronouns, I want you to assume it. But non-binary people are like, no, I want you to ask my pronouns. Like you'll a trans woman could get dogpiled for that and canceled and like pushed to a suicidal spot. It's really sick.
Oh, it's terrible. It really is. And I've seen you had your opinions on like the OnlyFans community. I know like work with a working not just women but men. Are you for it or against it or
I feel like so I think it's for me, I found it's not a very fulfilling life path. And I always wanted to destigmatize it because it's a good for sex workers to be safer. Like for me, it was a good option. I had tried being a stripper for like 2 weeks and I had terrible experience. So I went online and it was so much safer and easier. If you're uncomfortable, you just X out. Like, but I got increasingly isolated and just in this dark place, like spiritually, I just was not well. I was always performing this character and like at a certain point you do feel like you're exploiting someone's loneliness and they're exploiting my addiction. And it's just like this very mutually exploitative situation, you know, and there's a lot of porn addicts and I just didn't that's not the way I want to be in the world. Like I'm not ruling anything out depending on how fucking broke I get, but like I'm really trying to stay away from that shit, you know.
no, that's very fair. Yeah, I know there are times where like I'd get on a new medication and trying to help with coping with anxiety and suddenly like oh man, I want to bet a lot of money or I want to go
Mm-hmm.
steal down at the local store or go on OnlyFans and give this chick all my money. And
Oh
it's
gosh,
just
yeah.
it's so weird the ideas of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what advice would you give to someone, kind of going through your same sort of you know I wouldn't call it tragedy because of course you're doing better than every day I'm sure that you were, but what advice do you have to like people going through like withdrawals?
Ideally, if you can afford it, I do think it's generally worth it to try to get into a nicer facility because I've gone to many like state funded shitty detoxes and I literally ran out. Like it's a tough situation, but the number one fucking thing that addicts should do is tell the fucking truth. Tell the people you care about what's going on. Because for me, so much was hiding that. And I've had like health issues, so it wasn't that weird for me, my energy to be up and down. And like, so I had these like excuses anyway. So like my family didn't notice. And I was fairly functioning for an addict. I still held down a job and an apartment and was, you know, keeping it all together until it all fell apart, you know. But the main thing is telling people the truth, like about where you're at. Do you want to relapse? Like, do you need help? Let people fucking help you if you are lucky enough to have people in your life. You know, you just gotta tell the truth and be accountable and create boundaries between you and the drug. You gotta delete all the drug dealers' numbers. You gotta for me, I couldn't have access to money for a while. I would just like give my check or whatever to my mom and she'd give me like $20 at a time. Just you have to be fucking real with yourself that this is a very powerful addiction. Addiction is to anything could be like that. It can be extremely hard. So, but you have to take it seriously because your life fucking depends on it, you know, like dead ass. The shit on the streets getting stronger and stronger and stronger. More hundreds, like it's like 100,000 people a year dying from fentanyl. It's like the COVID, you know, it's like similar numbers.
Mhm.
It's yeah, it's a crisis. It's horrible.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, don't be embarrassed or shameful about it. Be honest and,
Mhm.
like you said, go if you have someone, get the support because these are battles that, yeah, ultimately you are fighting. I always say it's like a boxing match. You have your corner telling you how they could help you, but ultimately you are fighting your own battle.
Mhm.
And but it's always good to have those people in your corner for the support and to help you.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Because you
but
can't do it alone. It's just it's too hard. Like you really do need support from other people. And I'm just lucky that I do have that. Not every addict has that. So a lot of addicts are in a really, really hard situation. But you can still find support in communities like AA, NA. I have my issues with them. Obviously, I'm not 100% sober. I don't live by those. For me, I my goal is to live a healthy life that doesn't revolve around addiction, and that's where my life is now. I don't have to do total abstinence. Maybe I will in the future. I did for the first like 6 months, and then I just with weed and alcohol, I do like occasionally. But it just hasn't been an issue. So, but in AA, they're more strict. But it's a good resource to meet other support. Like, because if you're an addict, you have no one. Go to an AA meeting, raise your hand, and people will swarm you. They will swarm you to help you at the meetings and stuff. That's what they do. So don't be embarrassed and reach out wherever you can, because life is precious and it's a real shame to waste it.
No, yeah, definitely. Uh, everyone matters. You know,
Mhm.
definitely. And I'm glad you're still around to tell your story to help people that are in the same situation and can give that sort of like advice and guiding
Mhm.
light that there is you know day by day there's hope.
Yeah. And also people, especially if you are a fentanyl addict, my mistake when I went to rehab, I didn't want to be on any medications at all. I didn't want to be on methadone. I didn't want to be on Suboxone. I wanted to be on nothing. And I relapsed when I got out of rehab. So it's like you have to be real with yourself. If you need maintenance medication, fucking use it. Like because that does help a lot of people. There's a lot of stigma around being on methadone. People think you seem like high all the time. I don't think I'm giving that energy. Like I'm fine, like you can function on these medications and they can really help you. So I'm a big proponent of that, like harm reduction and maintenance medications, and just that's just what we need to. It's all we have that's working right now. Like that's it.
Well, no, and I appreciate you telling your story to me right now and that you continue to tell your story. I know on your YouTube channel, youtube.com slash at Ruby underscore Spacek, you're telling all these stories and going through the, uh, I don't know, sort of waves of how you feel. And I think I don't know, like I said, it's a guiding light. It gives people hope, especially in a way where it's a day to day thing. It's a day to day battle. It
It
really is.
is, yeah, and that's my goal is like, because I know for me, I've spent many years like in isolation. Like I can be highly social or just like a total recluse. It varies, but I've been in isolation and turned to the internet for answers. Everyone does this, like you're crying alone in bed, confused, and you're just like googling shit and like trying to find someone to relate to or like some kind of inspiration. And I would find just like smaller channels, videos, people, and just watch it. And it's like it does give you hope to know that like you can there's a life after addiction. Like yeah, I'm 34, I fucked up. Like by many standards of society, I'm a fuck up, but like by my standards, I'm doing great, and like I'm have plenty of life ahead of me to like um to live and to make a better situation.
No, definitely. Every day lived is another victory. Definitely.
Exactly.
For sure. And I want to thank you so much for your time and you just being here, existing. I know, I think I have all your socials there. Everyone can find you at your YouTube and your X, which is at Ruby Spacek. No, thank you so much for coming on and definitely keep in touch and stay safe with your journey.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. It was a
Uh,
pleasure.
well, thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye.